I sat at my son Derek's Christmas table, surrounded by twinkling lights and the smell of roasted turkey, when my daughter-in-law Brittany announced it was time for a special game. Everyone would read cards aloud. She handed me an ornate envelope with a smile that should have warned me. I opened it, expecting something heartfelt. Instead, I read, "Roses are red, violets are blue. We don't want a sick grandma. Christmas is not for you." The room exploded with laughter. Brittany laughed hardest. My son chuckled nervously. Even my grandchildren giggled. The card trembled in my hands as the laughter continued to echo around the dining room. My 8-year-old granddaughter Emma covered her mouth, her eyes darting between me and her mother. 6-year-old Noah looked confused but laughed because everyone else was laughing. Derek's sister Lauren glanced away, uncomfortable but silent. Her husband Paul studied his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. I forced my lips into something resembling a smile. "Well, that's quite a joke," I managed to say, my voice barely steady. I set the card down on the table, trying to pretend my heart wasn't shattering into 1,000 pieces. Brittany wiped tears from her eyes, still giggling. "Oh, Tracy, don't be so sensitive. It's just Christmas humor. Everyone knows you have to be able to laugh at yourself." I picked up my fork, attempting to continue eating the meal I'd helped prepare that morning. The ham I'd brought, the sweet potato casserole I'd spent 2 hours making. But the food tasted like ash in my mouth. "Actually," I said, setting down my fork, "I should probably explain something. I've been meaning to tell you all, but I wanted to wait until after the holidays." I took a deep breath. "I've been battling breast cancer for the past 6 months. I'm in remission now, but the treatment was pretty rough. I didn't want to burden anyone with it during the holidays, so I kept it to myself." The room went quiet. Lauren's hand flew to her mouth. Paul looked shocked. Even Emma and Noah stopped fidgeting. But Brittany's expression didn't change. If anything, her smile grew wider. "Well," Brittany said, standing up and smoothing her dress. "Actually, Tracy, since we're sharing information, there's something Derek and I need to discuss with you." She pulled out her phone with a flourish. "We've been documenting some concerning behaviors." My stomach dropped. "Concerning behaviors?" "Yes." Brittany began swiping through her phone. "Like last month when you forgot to pick up Emma and Noah from school. Derek had to leave work early." "That was a miscommunication," I protested. "I thought Derek was getting them." "He called me that morning and said he'd handle pickup. And here," Brittany continued, ignoring me, "you're sleeping during a family visit, in the middle of the afternoon." The photo showed me dozing on their couch. What it didn't show was that I'd just finished a chemotherapy session that morning and was exhausted beyond measure. But I hadn't told them about the chemo. "And this one," Brittany showed the screen to everyone at the table. "You gave Emma a cookie before dinner, completely undermining our parenting rules." "It was one cookie," I said weakly. Brittany set her phone down and looked around the table like a prosecutor addressing a jury. "I know this is difficult, but Derek and I have discussed this extensively. We think it's best if you take a step back from the grandchildren until you're truly better. We need to protect Emma and Noah." I looked at Derek, waiting for him to defend me, to explain that these incidents were all explainable, that his mother wasn't losing her mind or becoming incompetent. But Derek stared at his plate, his jaw working silently. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "The card," Brittany continued, her voice taking on a tone of fake sympathy, "was meant to be light-hearted. But honestly, Tracy, it speaks to a real concern. You're sick, and we need to put the children first." My chest tightened. I recognized this feeling from the panic attacks I'd had during my worst chemo days. I stood up slowly, gripping the edge of the table for support. "I need to use the restroom," I said quietly. I walked down the hallway on legs that felt like they might give out any second. But I didn't go to the bathroom. Instead, I stopped just around the corner, out of sight, where I could hear Brittany and Derek's voices from the dining room. "See?" Brittany was saying. "She can't even handle a little joke without falling apart. This is exactly what I've been telling you." "I don't know, Britt." Derek's voice was uncertain. That was pretty harsh. "Derek, your mother has cancer. Cancer can be genetic. Do you want Emma and Noah traumatized by watching their grandmother decline? Do you want them to inherit whatever genetic weakness made her sick in the first place? I guess you have a point, Derek said, and my heart broke a little more. Of course I do. I'm always thinking about what's best for our family. Your mother has been wonderful, but she's not well. We need to create some distance. Maybe by next Christmas she'll be truly healthy again. I heard the scrape of a chair. Someone was standing up. I quickly stepped into the bathroom and locked the door, leaning against it as tears finally spilled down my cheeks. I looked at myself in the mirror. At 65, I'd survived the death of my husband Gerald 3 years ago. I'd survived 6 months of cancer treatment. But I wasn't sure I could survive this. When I emerged, 10 minutes later, face washed and composure barely intact, I walked straight to the front door. I grabbed my coat from the rack and picked up my purse. "Tracy?" Lauren called out. "Where are you going?" "Home," I said simply. Brittany appeared in the doorway to the dining room, that same sweet smile plastered on her face. "Don't be dramatic, Tracy. We're just being honest. That's what families do. They tell each other the truth." I turned to look at her, really look at her. Her perfectly styled blonde hair, her expensive dress, her manicured nails, her eyes that held no warmth whatsoever. "You're absolutely right, Brittany," I said. "Families should be honest. So here's my truth. I'm leaving now, and I'll wait until you're ready to have me back in your lives." "Don't hold your breath," Brittany said with a little laugh. "We'll call you when we're ready for you to see the kids again. Maybe by next Christmas, like I said." More laughter followed me as I opened the door and stepped out into the cold December evening. Behind me, I heard Emma ask, "Is Grandma mad at us?" Brittany's voice drifted out. "No, sweetheart. Grandma's just not feeling well. She needs to go rest." I climbed into my car and sat there for a long moment, hands shaking too badly to put the key in the ignition. The windows of Derek's house glowed warmly. Through the dining room window, I could see everyone returning to their seats, life continuing without me as if nothing had happened. Finally, I started the car and drove home through streets lined with cheerful Christmas decorations, every twinkling light a mockery of how I felt inside. My house felt emptier than usual when I walked through the door. Gerald's favorite chair still sat in the living room, though he'd been gone for 3 years. Photos of Derek lined the mantel, chronicling his childhood, his wedding, the births of Emma and Noah. I'd always thought these photos represented love and family. Now they just reminded me of what I'd lost. I sat in the darkness for a long time, not bothering to turn on any lights. My phone sat silent on the coffee table. No calls, no texts, asking if I'd gotten home safely. Nothing. Around midnight, I finally moved to the bedroom. Sleep came in fitful bursts, interrupted by replays of Brittany's laughter and Derek's silence. The next morning, December 26th, I woke with a strange sense of clarity. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, watching the sun rise over my snow-dusted backyard, and I made a decision. I'd been thinking about visiting my brother Connor in Australia for years. He'd emigrated to Brisbane 20 years ago, built a life there with his wife Diane and their 3 children, all adults now. Every year, Connor invited me to visit. Every year, I said no because of obligations to Derek and the grandchildren. What obligations? I thought bitterly. They'd made it clear I was no longer wanted. I opened my laptop and searched for flights. There was an evening flight from Chicago to Brisbane via Los Angeles. One way. I stared at the price for a long moment, then clicked purchase. Once the ticket was bought, a sense of purpose took over. I pulled out my suitcase and began packing. Clothes, toiletries, medications, my journal. I worked methodically, almost mechanically. Around noon, I called Connor. In Brisbane, it was already December 27th, early morning. "Tracy!" Connor's voice was warm and surprised. "Merry Christmas, sis. I was just thinking about you." "Connor, I'm coming to visit," I said. "That's wonderful. When? Next summer?" "Tonight. I land in Brisbane on the 28th. Silence on the other end. Then, "Tonight? Tracy, What's wrong? I'll explain when I get there. Is your offer still open? Can I stay for a while? Of course. For as long as you want. Always. But Tracy, are you okay? I will be, I said, and I almost believed it. After we hung up, I sat down at my desk with a pen and paper. I needed to write a letter. I needed them to understand. I began writing, and once I started, the words poured out. I explained everything. The cancer diagnosis I'd received back in June. The 6 months of chemotherapy and radiation. The fear and pain and exhaustion I'd endured alone because I didn't want to burden anyone during the summer when Emma and Noah were out of school and Derek was dealing with work stress. The all clear I'd received just 3 weeks ago. I wrote about the Christmas card and the humiliation. About Brittany's accusations and Derek's silence. About feeling unwanted and unwelcome in my own son's life. Then I wrote about the money. This was the part they didn't know. For the past 2 years, since Derek had lost his job at the marketing firm, I'd been helping with their mortgage. $1,500 every single month. $18,000 each year. $36,000 total. Derek had been too embarrassed to tell Brittany where the money was coming from, so she thought he'd found some freelance work. I wrote about the college funds I'd set up for Emma and Noah. $12,000 in each account. Money I'd been saving from Gerald's life insurance and my own retirement funds. I wrote about my will, which currently left everything to Derek. My house, worth about $500,000. My savings and retirement accounts. Everything I'd built with Gerald over 40 years of marriage. And then I explained what I was doing. I was leaving for Australia indefinitely. I was stopping all financial support effective immediately. I was changing my will to remove Derek as my primary beneficiary. I was removing Brittany as the alternate power of attorney I'd foolishly granted her last year. I was taking back my life. I ended the letter with, "You made it clear I'm not wanted. I'm respecting your wishes. I hope you find happiness. But you'll find it without my financial support and without me waiting in the wings for the day you decide I'm good enough to see my grandchildren again. Goodbye." I signed it, sealed it in an envelope, and addressed it to Derek's house. I was putting the letter in my purse when the doorbell rang. My heart jumped. Had Derek come to apologize? But when I opened the door, it was Lauren standing there, her face creased with worry. "Tracy, can I come in?" I stepped aside and let her enter. She looked around at the suitcase by the door, the coat laid out on the chair. "You're actually leaving," she said softly. "I am. Tonight. Brisbane. Tracy, you can't just run away. What about Derek and the kids? What about them?" I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. They made it clear where I stand. "I know yesterday was awful," Lauren said. "I should have said something. I'm so sorry I didn't. But Tracy, you can't give up on your son." "I'm not giving up. I'm giving him what he apparently wants. Space." I picked up the letter from the coffee table where I'd left it. He'll understand when he reads this. Lauren took the letter and read it, her face growing paler with each paragraph. When she finished, she looked up at me with wide eyes. "You've been paying their mortgage? Does Derek know you're stopping?" "He will when he reads that. Tracy, they're going to lose the house. Derek's freelance income barely covers their other bills. Without your help with the mortgage." She trailed off. "Then Derek will have to figure it out," I said firmly. "I can't keep supporting someone who lets his wife humiliate me and then says nothing." Lauren sat down heavily on the couch. "There's something else you need to know. Something I overheard last night after you left." My stomach clenched. "What?" Brittany was on the phone with someone. I was upstairs helping Emma get ready for bed, and Brittany was in the guest room with the door partially open. I heard her say something about getting the house, and if the old lady kicks the bucket. Lauren looked up at me, distressed. "Tracy, I think she's been planning something. Waiting for something to happen to you so Derek inherits everything." I felt cold all over. "You think she's trying to push me out so Derek can inherit my estate faster?" "I don't know. But I do know that last week, I saw brochures in Brittany's car for assisted living facilities. Nice ones, but still. I asked her about it and she said she was researching options for a friend's mother. But Tracy, what if she was planning to convince Derek to put you in a home, to take control of your finances? The pieces clicked together in my mind. The sudden concern about my declining mental state, the documented incidents, the public humiliation designed to make me seem unstable. It wasn't random cruelty. It was calculated. All the more reason for me to leave, I said, and to change my will immediately. But if you leave now and send that letter, she might do something worse. She might turn Derek completely against you. She's manipulative, Tracy. I've watched her work on Derek for years. She might, Lauren hesitated. I don't know what she's capable of. I considered this. Part of me wanted to stay and fight, but a bigger part of me was just so tired. Tired of fighting cancer. Tired of grieving Gerald. Tired of trying to be perfect enough to deserve my son's love. I appreciate you coming here, Lauren. I really do. But I need this. I need to get away and clear my head. I need to be somewhere people actually want me around. Lauren stood and hugged me tightly. I understand. And I'll keep an eye on things while you're gone. I'll let you know if anything happens. Thank you, I whispered. After Lauren left, I finished my preparations. I called my lawyer, Stephen, and left a message explaining I needed to make urgent changes to my will and power of attorney documents. I told him I'd call him once I landed in Australia to set up a time to discuss everything. At 4 p.m, I loaded my suitcase into my car and took one last look at my house. This place had been home for 30 years. Gerald and I had raised Derek here. We'd celebrated birthdays and Christmases and graduations in these rooms. We'd grieved Gerald's death here. I'd survived cancer here. Now I was leaving it behind, at least for a while. I drove to the airport, parked in long-term parking, and checked my suitcase. At the post office kiosk in the terminal, I sent the letter certified mail, signature required. Derek would have to sign for it himself. As I went through security and walked to my gate, I felt lighter with each step. I was doing something for myself, for the first time in years. Maybe for the first time ever. I boarded the plane to Los Angeles, then the connecting flight to Brisbane. 15 hours in the air gave me a lot of time to think. I journaled. I slept. I talked briefly with an older woman in the seat next to me, Margaret, who was returning to Brisbane after visiting her daughter in Chicago. When I told her a condensed version of my story, she patted my hand and said, "Sometimes family is what you make, not what you're born with. You're brave for starting over." I crossed the international date line somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, and when I landed in Brisbane on December 28th, Australian summer sunshine greeted me. Connor was waiting at arrivals with a huge smile. "There's my sister," he said, pulling me into a bear hug. "Welcome home." Home, I thought. Maybe that's exactly what this is. Connor's house in a Brisbane suburb was beautiful and welcoming. His wife Diane greeted me with genuine warmth, and their 3 adult children, all in their 30s, made me feel immediately included. That first night, they threw together an impromptu welcome dinner, and I felt more like family in 3 hours than I had in 3 years back home. I slept deeply that first night, exhausted from travel and emotion. But when I woke on December 29th Australian time, I knew I couldn't avoid it any longer. I had to turn on my phone. I'd kept it off during the entire journey. Now, sitting in Connor's guest room with morning sunlight streaming through the windows, I powered it up and watched as notification after notification flooded in. 46 missed calls, dozens of text messages, multiple voicemails. My hands shook as I started going through them chronologically. The first message was from Derek, sent on December 27th morning. "Mom, got your letter. We need to talk. Call me." Then more from Derek, each one increasingly panicked. "Mom, you can't be serious about stopping the mortgage help. Mom, please call me back. Brittany is really upset. She didn't know about the money. Mom, where are you? Your car isn't at the house." Messages from Brittany, aggressive and entitled. "You're being incredibly selfish, Tracy. Derek is a mess because of your letter. Those college funds belong to our children. You can't take them back. I'm calling a lawyer. More from Derek, desperate now. Mom, we're going to lose the house. The mortgage is due in 3 days. I didn't tell Brittany about the money because I was embarrassed. She's threatening to leave me. Where are you? I felt a pang of sympathy for Derek, but it was tempered by anger. He'd let this happen. He'd stood by while his wife humiliated me. Then I listened to a voicemail from Lauren, and everything got worse. Tracy? Lauren's voice was panicked. You need to know what's happening. Brittany is telling everyone you abandoned Derek and the kids. She's posting on social media that you're having a mental breakdown and ran away. She's calling your neighbors, your church, even calling the police to file a missing person report. She's making you look like you're unstable. And there's something else. She found out about the will changes. Your lawyer's office apparently called Derek's house yesterday to confirm something, and Brittany answered. She knows you're cutting them out. She's furious, and she's going nuclear. Please call me. I immediately pulled up Facebook on my phone, something I rarely used. There, on Brittany's page, were multiple posts from the past 2 days. Worried sick about my mother-in-law who has disappeared. If anyone has seen Tracy, please contact us immediately. She's not well, and we're very concerned for her safety. The post had dozens of comments from neighbors and church members, expressing concern and offering to help search. Brittany had replied to each one, painting herself as the worried daughter-in-law and me, as a confused, sick old woman who'd wandered off. Another post. Please pray for our family during this difficult time. Tracy left without telling anyone where she was going. We're working with authorities to locate her and make sure she gets the help she needs. The help I need, I thought bitterly. As if I were the unstable one. Connor knocked on the door. Everything okay in here? You look upset. I showed him the phone, the messages, the posts. His face darkened as he read. This woman is something else, he said. She's trying to destroy your reputation. She's trying to make me look incompetent, I said, the realization washing over me. If she can convince people I'm mentally unstable, she can challenge the will changes. Maybe even try to get guardianship. You need to call your lawyer, Connor said. Now, I dialed Stephen's number, grateful that it was still business hours back in the States, December 28th afternoon there. Tracy, Stephen answered immediately. I got your message about the will changes. But we have a bigger problem. I know, Brittany found out. It's worse than that. Her attorney has filed a petition claiming you're mentally incompetent and shouldn't be allowed to make financial decisions. They're requesting an emergency hearing. They're using your sudden departure and the letter as evidence of instability. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Can they do that? They can try. The fact that you left the country suddenly and stopped financial support without warning, they're spinning it as erratic behavior. We need to fight this, but Tracy, you need to come back. I just got here, Stephen. I'm not coming back yet. Then we'll have to fight it remotely. But Tracy, this could get ugly. She's playing for keeps. She wants control of your assets, and she's willing to destroy your reputation to get it. After I hung up with Stephen, I sat with Connor and Diane at their kitchen table, explaining everything. What are you going to do? Diane asked. I'm going to fight, I said. She wants to paint me as incompetent? Fine. I'll show everyone exactly how competent I am. I'll document everything. I'll get statements from my doctors. I'll show the financial records of my support. I'll expose her for what she is. My phone rang. Derek. I stared at it for a long moment, then answered. Mom. Derek's voice was choked with tears. Mom, please. I'm so sorry. I should have defended you on Christmas. Brittany is out of control. She won't listen to me. Did you know she was planning to put me in a nursing home? I asked quietly. Silence. Then, she mentioned it once. She said it was for your own good because of the cancer. I told her no. But, Mom, I'm weak. I know I am. My heart ached. This was my son, the boy I'd raised, the man I'd loved and supported his entire life. But he was also a man who'd let his wife abuse me. What about the lawyer thing, Derek? Did you know about that? No. I swear, Mom. I didn't know until after she filed. I don't want to take your money or your house. I just want my mom back. What about the card? I asked, my voice breaking. You laughed, Derek. You sat there and let everyone humiliate me. Derek broke down completely, sobbing. I know. I'm a coward. Brittany has been telling me for months that you were getting forgetful, that you were a burden. I believed her. I'm so sorry. Despite everything, I felt tears in my own eyes. I'm in Australia, Derek. I'm staying with Uncle Connor. I'm not coming back yet, but I'm not giving up either. Australia? He sounded shocked. Mom, that's so far. I needed distance from all of this. But I'm going to clear my name, Derek, and I'm going to make sure Brittany doesn't get away with this. What are you going to do? I'm going to tell the truth. All of it. After I hung up, I spent the rest of the day working with Stephen via email and phone calls. We gathered evidence, my medical records showing I was cancer-free and cognitively sound, bank statements showing years of financial support, a statement from my oncologist confirming I was healthy, documentation of everything. I also took Connor's advice. If Brittany was using social media against me, I'd use it back. I wrote a Facebook post, something I'd never done before. I posted a photo of the Christmas card, which I'd taken a picture of before leaving. I wrote out everything. The humiliation at dinner, my cancer journey that I was now making public for the first time, the financial support I'd been providing, Brittany's attempts to paint me as incompetent. I ended with, I left because I was told I wasn't wanted. Now I'm being attacked for respecting their wishes. I'm in Australia with my brother, I'm healthy, I'm safe, and I'm fighting back. I hit post and watched as it immediately started getting comments. Neighbors and church members who'd seen Brittany's posts now saw my side. The tide of public opinion started to shift. But 2 days later, on December 31st, New Year's Eve in Brisbane, everything fell apart. I woke to frantic calls from Lauren. I answered, heart pounding. Tracy, Lauren was crying. Something terrible happened. It's Emma. The world stopped. What happened to Emma? She's in the hospital. She tried to. Tracy, she tried to hurt herself. What? She's 8 years old, Lauren explained through tears. Emma had seen the Facebook post and all the comments. Brittany had left her phone unlocked, and Emma had read everything. The Christmas card scandal, the fighting, the nasty comments people were making about her mother. Emma had become hysterical, saying it was all her fault because she'd laughed at the card. She'd had a complete breakdown. In her distress, she'd taken a whole bottle of children's vitamins, thinking they were medicine that would make her sleep forever. She didn't understand they weren't dangerous. She'd been rushed to the hospital. Physically, she was fine, but psychologically, she was traumatized. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I never meant for the children to be hurt. I never wanted Emma to see any of that. I know, Lauren said. But Brittany is using this. She's telling everyone you caused Emma's breakdown by making the situation public. She's saying you're vindictive and dangerous. I need to come home. I need to see Emma. Brittany says if you come near her children, she'll call the police. After I hung up, I sat in Connor's backyard, numb. Everything I'd done to fight back had made things worse. My granddaughter was traumatized. My son was caught in the middle, and Brittany was winning. Stephen called later that day. Tracy, Emma's hospitalization changes things. Brittany's attorney is using it as evidence that your actions are harmful to the family. They're requesting a restraining order. A restraining order? Against me? I know it's ridiculous. But they're spinning it that your public post and sudden abandonment caused psychological harm to a child. Judges take anything involving children very seriously. That night, as fireworks exploded over Brisbane to celebrate the new year, I sat in the darkness of the guest room and cried. I'd tried to escape, made it worse. I'd tried to stay silent, made it worse. I'd tried to fight back, made it worse. Everything I did backfired. Connor found me in the backyard later, watching the last of the fireworks fade from the sky. You can't give up now, he said. I've lost, Connor. She's won. My granddaughter is traumatized. My son won't stand up to her. And now I'm the villain. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Tracy? A woman's voice asked. You don't know me, but I need to tell you something about Brittany. Something she did before she married your son. Something that might change everything. The woman on the phone identified herself as Jessica. She'd been Brittany's college roommate 12 years ago. She'd seen my Facebook post and recognized Brittany from the photos. I need to tell you who Brittany really is, Jessica said. I stepped further into Connor's backyard, away from the house, and listened. Jessica explained that in college, Brittany had been engaged to another man named Andrew. He came from a very wealthy family. 2 months before their wedding, Andrew's mother Helen died suddenly. Andrew inherited everything, approximately $3 million. 1 month after that, Andrew also died in a car accident. Brittany inherited everything from Andrew. Both deaths were investigated, Jessica said. Helen died from a medication interaction. She took her heart medication with something that caused a fatal reaction. Andrew's car accident happened when his brakes failed mysteriously. No charges were ever filed because there wasn't enough evidence. But I always suspected Brittany was involved. My blood ran cold. Why? Brittany was obsessed with money. She used to joke about marrying rich and never having to work. When Helen died, I saw Brittany's reaction. She wasn't sad. She was excited. And after Andrew's death, she moved away, and I lost track of her. But I've always wondered. Jessica paused. I tried to report my suspicions to the police back then, but they said there was no evidence. Both deaths were ruled accidental, but I kept records. Old emails, text messages from Brittany that seemed suspicious. I can send them to you if you think they'd help. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness, my mind racing. If this was true, if Brittany had actually killed 2 people for money, then my situation was so much more serious than I'd realized. And if it wasn't true, if I made these accusations publicly, she'd destroy me for defamation. I called Stephen the next morning, January 1st. It was still December 31st, back in the States. This is interesting but dangerous, Stephen said after I explained. If Brittany was investigated and cleared, bringing it up now could backfire legally. However, it does suggest a pattern of behavior. Let me think about how we can use this. I want to hire a private investigator, I said. Can you recommend someone? I know someone, Frank. Former police detective, very good at digging into the past. But Tracy, this is going to cost money. I don't care. I need to know the truth. I hired Frank that day and wired him the money to start investigating. While he worked, I tried to focus on other things, but it was impossible. I was 8,000 miles away from my grandchildren, one of whom was traumatized. I was powerless to help. Lauren called with updates. Emma was home from the hospital, but barely speaking. Derek was sleeping in the guest room, his marriage in crisis. Brittany was doubling down on her victim narrative, telling everyone I'd caused Emma's breakdown. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for January 10th. I called Emma's hospital and managed to speak with the child psychologist, Dr. Patel. She couldn't share details due to privacy laws, but she said gently, "Your granddaughter is asking about you. She wants to know if you still love her." "Of course I do," I said, tears streaming down my face. "More than anything. Family conflict affects children deeply," Dr. Patel said. "Whatever is happening between the adults, the children need stability and reassurance." On January 3rd, Frank called with preliminary findings. "Tracy, I found some interesting things about Brittany's past. But there's a bigger problem." "What?" "I think Brittany knows I'm investigating her. Someone tipped her off." My heart sank. "How is that possible?" "I don't know. But this morning, I was watching Derek's house, and I saw Brittany talking to a man I later identified as another private investigator. She's hired someone to investigate you. What can she possibly find? I have nothing to hide." "That's not the point," Frank said grimly. She's going to manufacture evidence. I've seen this before. She'll find old neighbors, former co-workers, anyone who'll say something negative about you. She'll take things out of context. She's building a case. Later that day, I received an email from an unknown address. It contained a document labeled Psychological Evaluation, Tracy Henderson. I opened it with shaking hands. It was supposedly an evaluation by someone named Dr. Marcus Chen, claiming I showed signs of narcissistic personality disorder. It cited my need for attention, referring to my Facebook post, financial manipulation, referring to the money I'd given Derek, and abandonment of family, referring to going to Australia. I showed it to Stephen immediately via video call. "This is completely fraudulent," Stephen said, his face red with anger. "No licensed psychologist would write this without examining you. The medical license number is fake, doctor. Marcus Chen doesn't exist in any state database. She's fabricating evidence, Tracy. This is serious. What do? We expose it. We show the judge that she's submitting fraudulent documents to the court. That alone should end the restraining order proceeding. But Tracy, if she's willing to create false evidence, there's no telling what else she might do. We need to be very careful." I asked Frank to dig deeper and faster into Brittany's past. He promised to try, but warned that old cases were hard to access. That night, Derek called. His voice was strange, tight with fear. "Mom, I found something in Brittany's office. Papers about her past. There was a man named Andrew. Did you know about this?" I chose my words carefully. "I just learned about it." "What did you find?" "She was engaged before me. He died, and she got his money. Why didn't she ever tell me?" "What are you going to do?" I confronted her. She said it was too painful to talk about, and that I was betraying her by snooping. Then she said something that scared me. "What?" Derek's voice dropped to a whisper. She said, "You're just like your mother, always suspicious, always trying to ruin my happiness. Maybe you should both just disappear." "Mom," the way she said it, the look in her eyes. I'm scared. After we hung up, I sat with my head in my hands. Brittany wasn't just manipulative or cruel. She might actually be dangerous. And my son and grandchildren were living with her. Connor found me and sat down beside me. "What's wrong?" "I think my son and grandchildren might be in real danger. And I'm on the other side of the world." Over the next few days, the situation spiraled further out of control. Derek called constantly, his voice getting more frantic each time. Brittany had moved all their money to an account he couldn't access. She was talking about sending Emma and Noah to a boarding school. "They're 8 and 6, Derek said desperately. "Why would she send them away?" I realized what Brittany was doing. She wanted the children gone, so she had complete control over Derek. With them out of the way, she could manipulate him completely, maybe even convince him to do something about me. Frank called on January 4th with an update. He'd found Andrew's old college roommate, Marcus, who said Andrew had been terrified of Brittany in the weeks before his death. Andrew had told Marcus that Brittany was acting strange, asking questions about his mother's will. Andrew said his mother had complained that Brittany had been helping her organize her medications. But Marcus never went to the police because he had no proof. Frank had also obtained Helen's autopsy report. The medication interaction that killed her involved a drug she hadn't been prescribed. It was never determined how she got it. "It's circumstantial," Frank admitted. "But it's suggestive. If I had more time, I might be able to find more." "Keep digging," I told him. I called Lauren and asked for her help getting Derek and the children out of the house, away from Brittany. "If Brittany finds out I helped you, she'll make my life hell," Lauren said hesitantly. "Please, Lauren. I think they're in danger." She agreed. On January 6th, she invited Derek and the children to her house for a family dinner, telling Brittany she was welcome too. Brittany declined, saying she needed time alone. Once Derek had Emma and Noah at Lauren's house, Lauren and her husband Paul sat him down and showed him what I'd learned about Brittany's past. Derek was shocked, but still in denial. "This can't be right. Those deaths were accidents." Emma overheard parts of the conversation. She asked, "Is Mommy bad?" Derek, torn apart, told her, "No, sweetie. The adults are just confused." But while Derek was at Lauren's house, disaster struck. Brittany broke into my house, using a key she'd kept from when Derek used to live there. My neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, saw her and called the police. When police arrived, they found Brittany inside, having destroyed family photos, ripped up my cancer treatment journals, and stolen financial documents. She claimed she was checking on the property because I'd abandoned it. The police filed a report, but didn't arrest her since she had a key. When Derek found out, he confronted Brittany. For the first time, he stood up to her. "You broke into my mother's house. You vandalized her things. That's illegal." Brittany became tearful, saying she was under stress, wasn't thinking clearly. Then her demeanor changed, turned cold. "If you take her side over mine, I'll take the children, and you'll never see them again. I have lawyers. I have money. And you? You have nothing." Derek finally saw her clearly. She'd been planning this for a long time. On January 7th, at 3 a.m. Brisbane time, Derek called me from a hotel. He'd left Brittany. He had Emma and Noah with him. "Can I come to Australia?" he asked. "Just for a few weeks until I figure this out?" "Yes, of course. But what about the restraining order hearing?" "I'm withdrawing my consent. She filed it using my name too, but I never agreed. I'm going to testify on your behalf." Relief flooded through me. Finally, Derek was standing up. But an hour later, he called back, sobbing. Brittany had discovered they were gone. She'd filed an emergency custody motion, claiming Derek kidnapped the children. She'd called the police, saying Derek was unstable and dangerous. She'd gotten a temporary custody order. Police had gone to the hotel. Derek had to return the children to Brittany immediately or be arrested. "She took them," Derek cried. "I had to give them back. I'm still coming to Australia. I can't stay here. But I'm leaving my children with a woman who might be dangerous. We'll fight this legally," I promised. "Stephen will help. We'll get them back." On January 8th, I sat in Connor's garden feeling utterly defeated. My granddaughter was traumatized. My grandson was confused. My son was broken, and the children were with Brittany. Connor sat beside me. "You need to stop reacting to her moves. You need to make the winning move." "What winning move? She has everything. She has everything except the truth. And the truth always comes out." That afternoon, Frank called with a breakthrough. "Tracy, I found something. Andrew's car accident? The mechanic who inspected the car afterward is still alive. I tracked him down. He's willing to talk." "What did he say?" "He said the brake line was cut. Not frayed or worn. Cut. He reported it to police, but was told the case was closed. He kept his own photos. I have them now. I had evidence suggesting Brittany might have caused Andrew's death. But it was 12 years old, and the case had been closed. How could I use this without destroying Derek's life or endangering the children further?" Derek texted me. "My flight to Brisbane leaves tomorrow morning. I'll see you soon, Mom." I responded, "We're going to end this, together." That night, I barely slept. Tomorrow, Derek would arrive. In a week, we'd face Brittany in court. Everything was coming to a head. Derek arrived at Brisbane Airport on January 10th, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. His eyes were hollow, his face unshaven. I hugged him tightly, feeling how thin he'd become. Connor welcomed him warmly, and over the next few hours, Derek slowly began to relax in the safe environment of Connor's home. He met Connor's family and saw what healthy family dynamics looked like. That evening, we held a strategy session via video call with Stephen and Frank. We laid out all our evidence on the table. Frank's investigation into Brittany's past, the mechanic's testimony about Andrew's cut brake line, Helen's suspicious death, Jessica's testimony, Brittany's recent behavior, the break-in, the vandalism, the false psychological evaluation, Derek's first-hand accounts of her threats and manipulation. Stephen reviewed everything carefully. We have enough to reopen the investigation into Andrew's death, but more importantly, we have enough to win the custody case and clear Tracy's name. The restraining order hearing is in 5 days, January 15th. Here's what we're going to do. He outlined the plan. He'd present all evidence to the judge. Frank would simultaneously present his findings to the police department that originally investigated Andrew's death. Derek would file for emergency custody of the children. I would return to the States to testify. Wait, I said. If we expose all this, it will destroy Brittany publicly. Derek, she's your children's mother. Are you sure? Derek looked at me with clear eyes for the first time in months. She's not the woman I married. Maybe she never was. My children aren't safe with her. That's all that matters. Over the next 3 days, we worked around the clock. Jessica provided a sworn affidavit about Brittany's behavior in college. Ralph the mechanic provided his photos and testimony about the cut brake line. Marcus, Andrew's roommate, gave a statement about Andrew's fears before his death. Derek wrote a detailed account of the past 6 months. The escalating control, the financial manipulation, the Christmas card, Brittany's threats, everything. On January 13th, I packed my bags again. Connor and Diane drove Derek and me to the airport. You came here broken, Connor said, hugging me goodbye. You're leaving strong. That's who you really are. On the plane back to the States, Derek apologized again. I should have protected you. I should have seen who she was. You see it now, I said. That's what matters. We protect each other from now on. We arrived back in the States on January 14th and stayed at Lauren's house. She'd been checking on Derek's house and reported that Brittany had been telling Emma and Noah that their father had abandoned them. The children were confused and sad. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the next morning at 9 o'clock. I barely slept that night, going over everything in my mind. January 15th dawned cold and gray. We arrived at the courthouse early. Brittany was already there with her attorney, looking polished and confident. She was dressed perfectly, playing the victim role she'd perfected. When she saw Derek with me, her face twisted with rage for just a moment before she smoothed it back into a mask of concern. Judge Patricia Morrison called the hearing to order. Brittany's attorney spoke first, presenting their case. Brittany testified that I was mentally unstable, that I'd abandoned my family, that I'd made false accusations, that I'd caused Emma's breakdown with my vindictive Facebook post. She presented the fake psychological evaluation as evidence. She showed my Facebook post and painted it as proof of my vindictiveness. Her attorney concluded, Your Honor, Tracy Henderson is a bitter, jealous grandmother who cannot accept that her son has a new family. She has demonstrated erratic behavior and poses a threat to the emotional well-being of minor children. Then, it was our turn. Stephen called Derek to testify first. Derek explained everything. The financial support I'd provided, which he could prove with bank statements. The Christmas card incident. Brittany's escalating control over the past 2 years. Her threats. The break-in at my house. Everything. Judge Morrison listened intently, her expression growing more concerned with each revelation. Then Stephen presented Frank's investigation. The judge's face changed as she reviewed the documents. Photos of the cut brake line from Andrew's car. The autopsy report showing the unexplained medication in Helen's system. Jessica's affidavit. Marcus's statement. Ralph's testimony. Stephen explained, Your Honor, we're not here to prove that Brittany killed anyone. We're here to show a pattern of behavior, manipulation, financial opportunism, a willingness to harm others for personal gain. This woman has targeted vulnerable people, including my client, who just survived cancer. Brittany's attorney objected strenuously. These are old, unproven allegations that have nothing to do with this restraining order. Stephen responded calmly. They have everything to do with it. This restraining order is based on the false claim that Tracy is dangerous. The evidence shows the opposite. Brittany has a history of exploiting vulnerable people. She saw an opportunity with Tracy, who was weakened by cancer. And she took it. Then Stephen addressed the fake psychological evaluation. He'd done his homework. He presented proof that Dr. Marcus Chen didn't exist. The medical license number was fake. No such psychologist was licensed in any state. Your Honor, Stephen said, Brittany fabricated evidence and submitted it to this court. That alone should end this proceeding. Judge Morrison's face darkened. She questioned Brittany directly about the evaluation. Brittany stumbled, claimed her attorney had arranged it. She didn't know it was fake. Her attorney looked genuinely shocked. Apparently, he hadn't known either. Judge Morrison said coldly, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of fraud upon the court. Then Stephen pivoted to the custody issue. Your Honor, Derek has filed an emergency custody motion. Given what we've presented about Brittany's character and actions, we believe the children are at risk. Judge Morrison called for a brief recess to review all the documents privately. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. When Judge Morrison returned, her expression was grave. I've reviewed all the evidence presented today, she said. The restraining order against Tracy Henderson is denied and dismissed with prejudice. I find Brittany's allegations to be not only unfounded but malicious. Emergency temporary custody is granted to Derek pending a full custody hearing. Brittany is ordered to surrender the children immediately to their father. This court is referring the matter of the break-in to the police for prosecution. If the fraudulent psychological evaluation is proven to be Brittany's doing, she will face criminal charges for fraud upon the court. Brittany's face went white, then red. She stood up, screaming, You destroyed my life! You couldn't just go away! I looked at her calmly and said, I went away. You came after me. This is what you created. Security had to escort Brittany from the courtroom as she continued to scream threats and accusations. Later that afternoon, with a police escort, we went to Derek's house. Brittany was forced to surrender Emma and Noah. The children were confused and scared. When Emma saw me, she burst into tears. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to laugh. I knelt down and pulled her into my arms. Oh, sweetheart, none of this was your fault. Not any of it. Noah hugged me tightly. Daddy said you were sick. Are you better now? I'm much better, I said, tears streaming down my face. And I'm not going anywhere. Over the following days, everything unfolded rapidly. Police reopened the investigation into Andrew's death based on Frank's evidence. Brittany was arrested for the break-in and vandalism. The district attorney pursued charges for fraud upon the court. Derek filed for divorce. Lauren helped me clean up the damage to my house, and Derek and the children moved in with me temporarily. It felt right, having them there. Emma started seeing Dr. Patel regularly. In one session that I attended, I told Emma, sometimes grown-ups do things that hurt each other, but none of it means we love you any less. Police discovered that Brittany had been researching my finances for months. They found evidence on her computer showing she'd been planning to have Derek declared my power of attorney, then have me institutionalized so she could control my assets. The investigation into Andrew's death officially reopened. While proving murder after 12 years would be difficult, the evidence was damning enough to raise serious questions. Derek started therapy to understand how he'd been manipulated. He apologized to me repeatedly. You were a victim too, I told him. She's very good at what she does. The important thing is, you found your strength when it mattered most. 6 months passed. It was July now, hot and humid, so different from that cold December when everything had fallen apart. I stood in my backyard, watching Emma and Noah play on the swing set that Derek had installed last month. Emma's laughter rang out clear and bright, the sound of healing. Noah chased a butterfly, his small face scrunched in concentration. Derek lived in a small apartment nearby now, but he spent most evenings at my house with the kids. He'd found a good job, was going to therapy regularly, and slowly rebuilding his life. The divorce was finalized. Brittany faced multiple criminal charges and the reopened investigation into Andrew's death. Even if they couldn't prove murder, her life as she'd known it was over. Lauren and Paul joined us most Sundays for family dinners. Real family dinners, filled with laughter and love instead of tension and cruelty. I video called Connor every week. He'd invited us all to visit Brisbane over Christmas, and we were planning to go. This time, I'd bring my real family with me. Emma had made tremendous progress in therapy. She still had nightmares sometimes, but Dr. Patel said she was resilient. Children often were, given time and stability. One evening, Emma climbed into my lap as we sat on the porch watching fireflies. "Grandma, why did Mommy do all those bad things?" I'd known this question would come eventually. I chose my words carefully. Sometimes people are so afraid of not having enough that they forget what really matters. Money, houses, things. None of that is real love. Real love is what we have right here. Noah, who'd been listening, asked, "Are you going back to Australia?" "I'll visit Uncle Connor," I said, hugging them both. "But this is my home. You're my home." The next day, against everyone's advice, I did something I needed to do. I visited Brittany in jail. She was thinner, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing an orange jumpsuit. When they brought her to the visiting room, she looked at me with undisguised hatred. "What do you want?" she spat. "To gloat?" "No," I said quietly. "I wanted to tell you something. I actually feel sorry for you." She laughed bitterly. "Sorry for me? You won." "I didn't win anything. I just got my family back. You had that too. You had a husband who loved you, children who needed you, a family that welcomed you, and you threw it all away for money you didn't even need. That's sad." Brittany's face crumpled. "I needed security. I needed to know I'd be okay." "Security doesn't come from money," I said. "It comes from love. You'll understand that someday. I hope it's not too late." I walked away, leaving her crying in the visiting room. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sad for what might have been if she'd chosen differently. As summer turned toward fall, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Emma started 3rd grade with confidence. Noah began 1st grade, proud of his new backpack. Derek continued to grow stronger, more present as a father. And me? I was thriving. My last cancer screening came back clear. I'd started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping other women who'd experienced family abuse recognize the signs and find their strength. My story, as painful as it had been, was helping others. One September evening, Derek came to dinner looking nervous. After we'd eaten and the kids were playing in the living room, he sat down across from me at the kitchen table. "Mom, I need to say something. I've been thinking about that Christmas, about everything that happened, and I realized something." He paused, gathering his courage. "You saved us. When you left, when you sent that letter, when you fought back, you saved me and the kids. If you'd just accepted the abuse, if you'd stayed silent, Brittany would have eventually destroyed all of us. Your strength gave me permission to be strong too." Tears filled my eyes. I didn't feel strong. I felt terrified. "That's what courage is," Derek said. "Being terrified and doing it anyway." As December approached again, I thought about how much had changed in 1 year. Last Christmas, I'd sat at a table surrounded by people who didn't value me, reading a card designed to humiliate me. This Christmas, I'd sit at my own table, surrounded by people who loved me genuinely. People ask me if I regret sending that letter. I don't. That letter set me free. It exposed the truth. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives are actually doorways to the best ones. I learned that running away doesn't solve problems, but neither does staying silent when you're being abused. There's a difference between escaping and standing up for yourself. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. Connor showed up from 8,000 miles away. Lauren showed up even when it was uncomfortable. Derek, despite his weaknesses, showed up when it mattered most. I learned that you're never too old to start over. At 65, I flew to another continent, fought a legal battle from the other side of the world, and reclaimed my life. The cruelest moment of my life, that Christmas card, led me to the strongest moment. Realizing I didn't need anyone's permission to matter. I already mattered. On Christmas Eve, 1 year after everything fell apart, we gathered at my house. Derek, Emma, Noah, Lauren, Paul, and their children. The table was decorated beautifully, the smell of roasted turkey filling the air. Connor and his family joined us via video call, their Christmas morning sunshine, a contrast to our evening snow. Emma approached me shyly, holding a card. I hesitated, memories of last year flooding back. "It's a nice one this time, Grandma," Emma said. "I promise." I opened it. Emma had drawn a picture of me wearing a crown, the words, "Best Grandma Ever," written in careful letters. Inside, Derek had written, "Thank you for never giving up on me. Merry Christmas, Mom. I love you." Tears spilled down my cheeks. Noah hugged me. "Don't be sad, Grandma." "I'm not sad, sweetheart," I said, pulling them both close. "I'm grateful." We sat down to dinner, the conversation flowing easily, laughter genuine. I looked around at the faces of my family, smaller than before, but real, honest, and loving. This was what Christmas should be. This was what family should be. This was what I'd fought for, and it was worth every battle. To anyone out there being told you're too old, too sick, too broken, or too much of a burden, hear me. You're not. Your life has value. Your voice has power. Sometimes the people who try hardest to silence you are the ones most afraid of what you'll say. Stand up. Speak out. Never let anyone convince you that you deserve less than love and respect. I'm 66 now. I survived cancer. I survived betrayal. I survived a daughter-in-law who tried to destroy me. And I'm still here, stronger than ever, surrounded by love. If I can do it, so can you. Now I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted within your family? How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself? What would you have done in my situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's going through something similar. If this story touched your heart or made you think about the importance of standing up for yourself, please hit that like button. It helps others find this story who might need to hear it. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe and turn on notifications. I share stories like this regularly. Stories about real people facing real challenges and finding the courage to overcome them. Finally, if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who's being told they don't matter, or that they're too much of a burden, please share this story with them. Sometimes knowing we're not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here, for caring about what happened to me and my family. Your support means more than you know. May you always know your worth. May you always find the courage to stand up for yourself. And may you always be surrounded by people who see your value. Until next time, take care of yourselves. You matter.